Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi files his nomination from Varanasi for the third time. He had won the seat by a significant margin in 2014 and 2019. Three timeless works of India's literary heritage, the Ramcharitmanas, Panchatantra and Sahriday Lokana, enter UNESCO's Memory of the World Asia-Pacific Regional Register. Scuffles break out in Georgia's parliament. Lawmakers fight as a bill dubbed the Russian Law is approved amid mass protests. A collapsed bridge in the US city of Baltimore is blasted into pieces in an effort to clear the wreckage. A container ship had crashed into the bridge in March. And Cannes Film Festival kicks off All We Imagine as Light from India among 22 films competing for the prestigious Palme d'Or. All right, first up, let's get you the latest on the world's largest democratic election in India. The political landscape in India is heating up as nominations and campaigning intensify for the three remaining phases of the country's parliamentary election. Prime Minister Narendra Modi filed his nomination from Varanasi in the northern state of Uttar Pradesh on Tuesday, a constituency he had won by a significant margin in 2014 and 2019. Opposition leaders such as Rahul Gandhi of the Congress Party and Samajwadi Party Chief Akhilesh Yadav campaigned too. The duo held a joint rally at Jhansi in Uttar Pradesh. Syed Absarul Hassan has more on the campaign trail of some political leaders.
After the culmination of the 4 phases of the 7-phase general elections in India, nominations and campaigning have picked up pace for the remaining phases. Before filing his nomination from Varanasi, India's Prime Minister began his day by offering prayers at the Dashwamedh Ghat on the banks of River Ganga. Then he proceeded to file his nomination papers. Varanasi Lok Sabha seat is a constituency from where Prime Minister Modi secured wins with larger margin for 2 consecutive terms in 2014 and 19. His next destination was Jharkhand, where he addressed a mega rally at the Kodarma city on Tuesday.
दशकों बाद श्रीनगर के चुनाव में इतना भारी मतदान हुआ और लोग उमंग और उत्साह से भरे हुए थे और लोग कह रहे थे कि 370 जाने के कारण ये संभव हुआ है। लोग कह रहे थे मोदी के आने के बाद संभव हुआ है।
Senior BJP leader and Union Home Minister Amit Shah addressed a public meeting in Bangaon in the eastern state of West Bengal. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath campaigned in the Amethi constituency, where senior BJP leader Smriti Irani is aiming to win the seat for the second time. From the opposition, stalwarts are campaigning. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi and Samajwadi Party Chief Akhilesh Yadav held a joint rally in the Jhansi constituency. Both leaders asserted that the India alliance will come to power this time.
4 चरणों का चुनाव हो चुका है और जो साथी जानकार होंगे वो जानते होंगे कि भाजपा अब नीचे जाती जा रही है और भाजपा का ग्राफ गिरता जा रहा है।
Congress leader Priyanka Gandhi Vadra has also been rallying support in Raebareli, seeking votes for her brother Rahul Gandhi, who's contesting from the seat. The political arena in India is charged with energy and anticipation as the election fervor continues to grow. Syed Absarul Hassan's report for DD India.
Lucknow, the capital of the northern Indian state of Uttar Pradesh, will go to the polls in the fifth phase of parliamentary election to be held on the 20th of May. DD India's Sakal Bhatt gauges the pulse of the people in Lucknow as she tracks the twists and turns of the great Indian election.
Team Poll Pulse has reached Lucknow. We are here at the iconic Bulbulaya Bada Imambara. These are heritage buildings dating back to 18th and 19th century and typically also called the seat of Nawabs or the titular rulers of the Lucknow state.
यूपी तो कम से कम 80% बदल गया है। बदलाव क्या है? रोड देख लीजिए, साफ सफाई देख लीजिए और गुंडागर्दी तो एकदम ही मैट।
We always choose to our leader who always represent just like our Nawabs. The leaders take care of the all peoples here. We never see like the Hindu or Muslims. Yeah, we want the leader who work here.
मतदान अपने मुद्दों पर करिए जो आपके साथ खड़ा हो सके, आपके काम आ सके, जिससे आपका परिवार जो है खुश रह सके।
जितने भी लोग हैं समाज में बढ़ चढ़ के मतदान करें ताकि अच्छी सरकार का गठन हो सके।
हम चाहते हैं बदलाव हो तो एजुकेशन की तरफ, गरीबी की तरफ, बेरोजगारी की तरफ, क्योंकि अगर बदलाव सियासत से हट के गरीबी, बेरोजगारी और जहालत पर हो तो हमारा सूबा, हमारा प्रदेश, हमारा घर, हमारा मुल्क तरक्की करे।
ऐसा क्यों लखनऊ के बारे में आमतौर पर कहा जाता है कि मुस्कुराएं आप लखनऊ में हैं?
जी, ऐसा इसलिए कहा जाता है मैडम कि लखनऊ की तहजीब ऐसी है कि कोई भी लखनऊ का आपको मिलेगा, ऐसा बोलेगा, ऐसा इज्जत देगा कि आप जरूर मुस्कुराएंगे। अगर मेरे युवाओं से कहना है जो पहली बार मतदान कर रहे हैं, पहले मतदान करें फिर जलपान करें और ऐसे सदस्य को चुने जो आपके बीच में वो हमेशा रहे, आपकी मदद करे।
The Bharatiya Janata Party has seen the dominance in the last two editions of the Lok Sabha polls, while the opposition, particularly the regional war houses like Samajwadi Party and the Bahujan Samaj Party, are desperate to bounce back to power along with the other opposition parties like Congress. We will have to wait till the D-Day, the results day, what is going to be the verdict of the Uttar Pradesh's, the largest Indian state, the electorate of Uttar Pradesh. With camera person Aniket Dubey, Sakal Bhatt reporting from Lucknow in Uttar Pradesh for DD India.
And Sakal Bhatt navigates the bustling streets of Lucknow's iconic eateries to get you a flavor of the popular sentiment among locals. Take a listen.
A popular cliche in Hindi, Delhi ka rasta UP hote hue jata hai, which means road to the power center in Delhi passes through UP. The political saying illustrating the most populous Indian state of Uttar Pradesh with the maximum chunk of Lok Sabha seats plays a very, very crucial role for the national elections. I've been told that the who's who of Lucknow, from top politicians to every tourist who comes to Lucknow, has to have a cup of tea here. मतदान करेंगे, जरूरी है मतदान?
बहुत जरूरी मतदान करेंगे। खाना पीना बाद में खाएंगे, पहले मतदान करेंगे, क्योंकि हम मतदान नहीं करेंगे तो सही नेता को हम जज नहीं कर पाएंगे कौन है। सबको अपना अपना मत का देने का अधिकार है, तो अपने अधिकार का पूरा प्रयोग कीजिए।
उत्तर प्रदेश तो 70-80% बदल गया है, महिलाओं की सुरक्षा की दृष्टि से, बच्चों की पढ़ाई की दृष्टि से, और जो लूट खसोट है वो बहुत कम हुई है।
UP has lots of change, lots of the transportation has changed, the security of the basically business class has changed. Main thing business, because business is the economy of the every state. And if the business increases, automatically economy of the state increases.
When you come to Lucknow, besides the Lucknowi biryani and tunde kebab, Lucknow, rather the old Lucknow city, is also very famous for the baturas and the lassi. Come with me and let's enjoy the flavored yogurt ice curd.
मतदान करना इसलिए जरूरी है क्योंकि हमें देश के भविष्य को बनाना है, तो जो देश के लिए काम करें उनको जो है लाना है.
I love Lucknow. I love Lucknow because Lucknow is you smile every day if you are in Lucknow.
We passed through the lanes and bylanes of Lucknow in order to discover and rediscover the old world charm of the city, which is replete with historical legacy. In Lucknow, they call it Nazakat and Nafasat, which means the loveliness, the charm, the beauty and the elegance.
With camera person Aniket Dubey, Sakal Bhatt reporting from Lucknow in Uttar Pradesh for DD India.
Still to come on DD India News Hour. US Secretary of State makes a surprise visit to Ukraine, calls on President Volodymyr Zelensky. UK summons China's ambassador after 3 people are charged with spying for Hong Kong. And civil rights groups call off their protest in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir after authorities agree to reduce electricity and wheat prices. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. After several days of violence in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, an alliance of civil rights groups on Tuesday called off the protests after authorities agreed to lower the prices of electricity and wheat. The protests have claimed at least 4 lives. Aman Kumar Himanshu has more.
An alliance of civil rights groups on Tuesday called off a protest that had lasted for several days across Pakistan-occupied Kashmir after the Pakistani government made their demand to reduce electricity and wheat prices. On Tuesday, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif approved a grant of $86 million to meet their demands. Intense protest and violence erupted in Muzaffarabad on Friday that led to the death of 4 people, including 1 police officer, and over 100 injured. The violence erupted after about 70 members of the Joint Awami Action Committee were arrested during the protest against the rising costs of food, fuel and utilities. Similar protests were witnessed against high electricity bills in August 2023 as well. Pakistan's economy has been witnessing extremely high inflation and dismal economic growth for more than 2 years due to the rising energy costs. But leaders in POK have been protesting against discrimination by the government in the distribution of power to the area. Islamabad has constantly ignored the Pakistan-occupied Kashmir since decades. The residents endure prolonged power outages and bear the burden of costly electricity despite the region's own production capabilities. Additionally, the fundamental human rights of residents of POK has been suppressed systematically by the Pakistan government. Amid the intensified protest against the Pakistani government in POK, India's External Affairs Minister reiterated India's stand on merging the illegally occupied region with India. He said that one day India will end the illegal occupation of Pakistan.
For us, the initial goal was first to deal with the 370 issue. The country has already seen after 5 years how much of a difference there is today in the ground situation in Jammu and Kashmir as a result today of it being fully integrated with this country. So that part is integrated. There is the other part. So watch part 2 of the series.
Meanwhile, the United Kashmir People's National Party also organized a protest outside the Pakistani consulate in the United Kingdom. The protest was in solidarity with the major unrest in Muzaffarabad. Aman Kumar Himanshu's report for DD India.
A former US President Donald Trump's former lawyer Michael Cohen is testifying for a second day at the Republican presidential candidate's criminal hush money trial. In a statement on Monday, Cohen said Trump approved the plan to reimburse $130,000 paid to adult film star Stormy Daniels as hush money and hid the reimbursements by creating false records. Those reimbursements provide the basis for the 34 counts of falsifying business records that Trump faces. Meanwhile, U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Mike Johnson joined Trump at his New York trial to show support to him. Johnson is the latest and most senior party member to attend the proceedings. And Sally Patterson joins us for more. Sally, what more can you tell us about Michael Cohen testifying for a second consecutive day?
Well, we're still digesting Michael Cohen's testimony as it continues to come out. And now we're really at the crux of what this trial here in New York City is all about. How this $130,000 payment was made, who knew about it, who authorized it. According to Michael Cohen, Trump's former lawyer and fixer, it was his boss at the time who gave him the full go-ahead to make that payment. He alleges that the $130,000 was paid from his own pocket in a sense, but under Trump's direction, and it was Trump who then paid him back, he says, for that money in checks over 12 months. That, he says, was the plan. Now, he was asked why he'd agreed to do this, why he'd agreed to not only pay the money, but also then tell people that really it was his own idea to do it all along. And Cohen told the court he did it to protect Mr. Trump, to stay on message and to demonstrate my continued loyalty. That's language that we've heard from him now over a day and a half of testimony, where he's spoken about how close he was to Donald Trump when he worked for him for several years, and how he felt very safe and protected having the support and the protection of the President of the United States. And therefore he felt like he was able to get away with some of these alleged crimes. Now, Cohen, over the past few hours, has admitted to not only lying to the press about this money that was paid to Stormy Daniels, an adult film star at the center of this case, but also admitted lying to federal regulators who were looking into election campaign money. He told them that it was him who had done this payment, and it was nothing to do, he said, with the Trump organization or with anything of that nature. What he didn't say at the time, Cohen now admits, is that it was actually Trump himself and his personal fund that he alleges were behind this payment. Donald Trump has pleaded not guilty to 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. He claims that this is all a political ploy trying to keep him out of the White House.
Also, Sally, U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Mike Johnson joined Trump at his New York trial to show support to him. What is one to make of the Republican leaders filing in to support Trump 6 months before Election Day?
Well, as you say, House Speaker Mike Johnson has expressed his support for Donald Trump. We actually heard from him in the past few days where he said that this trial and several of the other cases that could face Donald Trump over the coming months are election interference and words to that nature, instead are really a political ploy. And he said that they should all be dropped, and that's a very senior Republican figure there making those remarks. We've seen many Republicans showing their support for the former president over the past few days, many of them coming here to New York to watch this trial unfold and speaking out very publicly about their ongoing support for the former president, who is leading in some of the polls when it comes to November's election. Donald Trump is, of course, running to retake the Oval Office, and we're seeing polling coming out that suggests that in some of those crucial swing states, Donald Trump could be the leading figure there. We've heard from Trump himself saying that this trial is really a ploy by President Joe Biden to try and keep him off the campaign trail and instead inside the courtroom. Over the weekend, we saw a huge rally in support of Trump in neighboring New Jersey, where we saw thousands of supporters come out to show their ongoing dedication and loyalty to the man they want to see president once again.
Sally, thank you. Sally Patterson reporting from New York City. And talking about the U.S., the country's Secretary of State Antony Blinken met Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kyiv on Tuesday. During the meeting, Blinken assured Zelensky that a new U.S. weapons package had already started arriving in Kyiv, and he said it's going to have an impact on the battlefield in Ukraine.
All of us admire your extraordinary resilience, your endurance, your strength, your leadership. And we know this is a challenging time, but we also know that in the near term, the assistance is now on the way. Some of it's already arrived, more of it will be arriving, and that's going to make a real difference against the ongoing Russian aggression on the battlefield. And we're determined, along with many other partners for Ukraine, to make sure that you succeed on the battlefield.
Blinken's trip is the first by a senior U.S. official since the Congress passed a long-delayed $61 billion aid package last month. Meanwhile, Zelensky lauded the crucial U.S. aid and also asked for 2 Patriot air defense batteries for the northeastern region of Kharkiv. Right, let's get you some more on Blinken's visit to Ukraine. Let's cut live to the briefing.
We're meeting at a critical moment. Putin is ramping up yet another offensive against Ukraine in Kharkiv and across the east, sending wave after wave of Russian soldiers, Iranian drones, North Korean artillery, and tanks, missiles, and fighter jets built with machines and parts supplied by China. The coming weeks and months will demand a great deal of Ukrainians who have already sacrificed so much. But I have come to Ukraine with a message. You are not alone. The United States has been by your side from day one. We are with you today, and we will stay by your side until Ukraine's security, its sovereignty, its ability to choose its own path is guaranteed. And we're far from your only friend. Dozens of countries around the world are not just rooting for Ukraine's success, they're helping you achieve it. Now, after the delay in approving the latest U.S. assistance package to Ukraine, a delay that left you more vulnerable to Russia's attacks, some Ukrainians may be wondering whether you can count on America to sustain its commitment. The $60 billion aid package that was approved by our Congress with overwhelming support across both political parties and both houses of Congress, I think demonstrates that you can. And a significant majority of Americans believe we should continue to provide assistance to Ukraine. Indeed, the American people's support for Ukraine has been consistent over the course of the war. It has never wavered. Americans understand that our support for Ukraine strengthens the security of the United States and our allies. They understand that if Putin achieves his goals here in Ukraine, he won't stop with Ukraine. He'll keep going. For when in history has an autocrat been satisfied with carving off just part, or even all, of a single country? When has that satisfied Vladimir Putin? At the same time, the American people want to know that we have a plan for getting to the day when Ukraine can stand strongly on its own feet, militarily, economically, democratically, so that America's support can transition to more sustainable levels. The Ukrainian people want the exact same thing. They do not want to have to rely on others to guarantee their security and their prosperity. And we do have a plan, and we're working together.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken speaking there in Kyiv, Ukraine. Meanwhile, fierce clashes continue in Kharkiv as Russia and Ukraine engage in an intense combat. Russia's defense ministry on Tuesday said that its troops captured the town of Buruvatka in Ukraine's Kharkiv region and destroyed multiple targets in the border town of Vovchansk. For its part, Ukraine's army said its forces targeted Russia's electronic warfare systems, command posts and ammunition depots. Russia's acting defense minister Andrei Belousov said that Moscow must win in its conflict with Ukraine but must ensure minimal losses. The UK Foreign Ministry summoned China's ambassador after 3 people were charged with spying for Hong Kong. The trio were accused of assisting a foreign intelligence service between December and May by agreeing to undertake information gathering, surveillance and acts of deception in Britain. China rejected the allegations and condemned the UK's accusation against the Hong Kong government. DD India's John Beaver reports from London.
Certainly the UK believes that it is very serious, and a statement that we have seen from the Foreign Office certainly reiterates that, as does the very summoning of the Chinese ambassador to the Foreign Office, which is no small step. That is a very bold statement from the UK in terms of what they have described as a pattern of recent behaviour that is unacceptable. The statement from the Foreign Office goes on to say it includes cyber attacks, reports of espionage links and the issuing of bounties. And the Foreign Office again saying that is not acceptable. So certainly strong words from the UK. And of course, as well as those concerns to do with cyber attacks and these espionage links, we have 3 men appearing in court yesterday. They are charged under the National Security Act, and that is all to do with foreign interference on behalf of the Hong Kong government. So certainly the UK taking this very seriously. As you mentioned, though, the Chinese have been very quick to refute this and coming out with a strong statement themselves. The Chinese ambassador saying the series of accusations against China were unwarranted, going on to describe them as groundless and slanderous. So certainly the two sides not backing down from what they believe are very serious accusations. You would imagine that the next step from here would be the expulsion of diplomats, of members of diplomatic staff. But I think it's important to say that I don't think we're at that step yet. Certainly there has been nothing official that could be coming. You would imagine, though, and in similar situations to this in the past with other foreign powers, certainly that is very much the first thing that happens after the summoning of a high-level diplomat.
The White House has quadrupled electric vehicle duties to reach a 100% tariff on Chinese-made cars as a measure to protect U.S. manufacturers from cheap imports. Taking to X, U.S. President Joe Biden said, and I quote, "I just imposed a series of tariffs on goods made in China, 25% on steel and aluminium, 50% on semiconductors, 100% on EVs, and 50% on solar panels. China is determined to dominate these industries. I am determined to ensure America leads the world in them," unquote. Now, new measures will also impact Chinese imports of computer chips, medical products, steel, aluminium and semiconductors. Reacting to this, the Germany's chancellor said around half of Chinese e-car imports come from Western manufacturers. After the US announced the tariffs against China, Italy's economy minister Giancarlo Giorgetti said that the G7 will discuss the risk of fragmentation in global trade at the G7 meeting in Italy next week. The G7 finance ministers will also discuss how to use frozen Russian assets seized after Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. Right, moving on, Georgia's parliament voted on Tuesday to approve the third and final reading of a bill on foreign agents that has caused a political crisis and mass protests in the nation. The legislation now faces a likely veto by Georgia's president, which the parliament can override by holding an additional vote. Georgia's government says the legislation is needed to promote transparency and preserve the country's sovereignty. Thousands are protesting near the parliament in Tbilisi against the controversial Kremlin-like bill. Protesters are concerned that the bill, once it becomes law, would be used by the government to stifle the voice of its critics. Still to come on DD India News Hour. An expert take on how a pact on operating Iran's Chabahar port highlights India's independent foreign policy. And 3 timeless works of India's literary heritage included in UNESCO's Memory of the World Regional Register.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. A quick recap of the headlines. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi files his nomination from Varanasi for the 3rd time. He had won the seat by a significant margin in 2014 and 2019. 3 timeless works of India's literary heritage, the Ramcharitmanas, Panchatantra and Sahriday Lokana, enter UNESCO's Memory of the World Asia-Pacific Regional Register. And scuffles break out in Georgia's parliament. Lawmakers fight as a bill dubbed the Russian law is approved amid mass protests. Now, India and Iran have signed a 10-year contract for developing and operating the Shahid Beheshti port at Chabahar. The port offers an alternative route for Indian goods to reach Europe via a landlocked Afghanistan and Central Asia, bypassing Pakistan. The agreement marks a significant milestone in India's foreign policy front, which in recent years has helped to chart a path that enhances the country's strength and protects its core interests on the world stage. Fuzail Ahmed reports.
India and Iran on Monday signed a long-term contract for the operation of the Shahid Beheshti port in Chabahar. India will develop and operate Iran's strategic Chabahar port for 10 years.
ये बहुत साल से बातचीत चल रहे थे। इतना दिन तक तो ये शॉर्ट टर्म के थे, तो इसलिए इस पोर्ट के भविष्य को मजबूत बनाने के सिलसिले में और रीजनल कनेक्टिविटी को बढ़ावा देने के लिए प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी का जो विजन है, उस विजन को साकार करने के लिए आज ऐसे एक ऐतिहासिक कदम उठाए गए हैं।
So what's the strategic importance of the port for India? India and Iran have projected the port as a key hub for the International North-South Transport Corridor or INSTC project. Chabahar port offers an alternative route that bypasses Pakistan, reducing India's reliance on its neighbor for trade with Afghanistan and beyond.
We believe today that connectivity is a very big issue in that part. International North-South Transport Corridor, which we're doing with Iran, Russia. Chabahar will connect us to that, also to Central Asia.
The agreement marks another milestone in India's foreign policy initiatives. Some of the major highlights of India's recent foreign policy initiatives include: under Vaccine Maitri, India supplied more than 300 million COVID-19 vaccines to more than 100 partners across the world. Under Operation Ganga, India evacuated about 22,500 nationals from Ukraine in 2022. Under Operation Kaveri, India evacuated about 4,000 Indian and foreign nationals from Sudan in 2023. India hosted the first ever Voice of Global South Summit under the theme Unity of Voice, Unity of Purpose on January 12 and 13, 2023 in virtual format. India's Prime Minister launched Mission Live Lifestyle for Environment in October 2022. On 21st June 2023, Prime Minister led the Yoga Day celebrations at the UN headquarters. New international organizations headquartered in India are International Solar Alliance and Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. India convened the G20 Leaders Summit for the first time in September 2023. India signed social security agreements to protect the interest of Indian workers abroad.
We tell many countries that if people are coming there, you please sign an agreement with us where you promise that you will give them the same kind of protections and the same kind of entitlements. Countries like Germany, Austria, Italy, Japan, Australia are today very, very keen. They have all signed agreements.
India's foreign policy has charted a path that enhances its strength, protects its core interests, and ensures India's continued upward trajectory as a fast-growing and inclusive economy with a rising profile in global affairs. Fuzail Ahmed's report for DD India.
And Mr. Manjeev Puri now joins us from New Delhi. Mr. Puri is a former Indian ambassador to Nepal, the European Union, Belgium and Luxembourg, and a deputy permanent representative of India to the United Nations in New York as well. Ambassador Puri, welcome to DD India. Now, as the report said, we understand the significance of the Chabahar port for India and the region at large. But my question to you is this: does the signing of this pact, show India's strategic autonomy, that it pursues an independent foreign policy?
Ramesh, absolutely. I mean, India, in my understanding, must pursue a strategic autonomy and independent foreign policy. This is a symbol, a manifestation of that. Let's look at the situation. Central Asia, and let me say in our extended neighborhood, Afghanistan. Now, we all know what happened there when the Americans went, Taliban came in. But does it mean that India has no interest and you can leave Afghanistan just because Pakistan will not let you have transit? No. And so we spoke to Iran and started the idea of developing the Chabahar port, which is an alternate route to reach Afghanistan. We've done well to have now taken this thing forward and started development of the port itself. Secondly, we looked at other possibilities from Iran, especially given the fact that the Iranians and the Russians have good relations. What about developing a north-south corridor? And that too gets a fillip by this. Now, I'm sure there would be some, in fact, a number of others who would look at this in an askance. But you know, we have to pursue things which are in our interest. And I want to remind you of what I heard the External Affairs Minister say. Connectivity is critically important. This is a region in which some of these things are constrained as far as we are concerned, in particular because of Pakistan's obduracy, letting us use its territory for transit, but we need to get it over with, and that's exactly what we've done. Important strategic move, what signals strategic autonomy and independent action on the part of India.
Absolutely. Ambassador Puri, which brings me to my next question to you. The US has voiced some reservation over the pact. Now, this in spite of the US exempting India from certain sections for the development of the Chabahar port. What explains the US change of heart?
So, Ramesh, I won't say it's a change of heart, but it's a change of what's happening in the world today. When the US looked at India in a larger light, especially in the context of China, and said, it's all right, we have issues with Iran, but we also recognize that you are in the same neighborhood, you have other links with Iran, you have other needs, and the fact that Chabahar would allow you to get to Afghanistan, which in a sense had become problematic. So they looked the other way. But now look at the situation in the Middle East. You have this Israel-Gaza-Palestine affair in a full-blown manner, which is taking place there.
Right.
The Iranians and the Israelis have actually had attacks on each other. Now, they may have cooled things down temporarily, but that particular rivalry remains extremely important. And so, with the US being the principal, let me say, backer, supporter, and a country that holds Israel's back, at a time like this, they obviously can't be saying anything which is good for Iran is okay. They have to voice their reservations about it. And
Okay.
I would say that, they would have wanted it at a different time and so on. But look, we also have to pursue our interests. And as this project was ready and it could be done, we had to go ahead, and the Iranians were ready. Why not? It also has good signaling that India follows an independent policy suiting its interests. That these converge with many in the world is something that we desire, we are happy to do. But essentially, we have to do things which are in the interest of India.
Indeed. And what you just said, Ambassador Puri, gives me a perfect segue to my last question to you. Would you agree that India has successfully handled its ties with the Arab world and the Gulf over the past decade? India-Israel, India, the Arab world, and India-Iran ties?
So, Ramesh, I will very much agree with you there. But let me, if you allow me to say so, or even longer than 10. We've had excellent relations with the Gulf. The number of Indians who live there, work there, who make it their workplace, as they say, karma bhumi, and who have become the largest tributaries of India, which has resulted in huge developments in Kerala, in several other parts of India. They are also huge trading partners. If I'm not mistaken, the UAE is among India's top 3 trading partners. We, of course, import huge amounts of oil from them. So we've handled this relationship, but we've also built ties at the level of the people. And I want to draw your attention to the opening of the Hindu Mandir, the Honorable Prime Minister visiting there, going there for the COP in Dubai. All of these things are positive. But it's not just the UAE. It's been with all the other countries. At the same time, despite the fact that those countries have issues with Iran, we've kept our channels of communication open. There have been some issues, Indian seamen coming under problems with the Houthis firing, but the Iranians have responded to our reaching out to them. We have continued our developments on the Chahabad port. So we've managed all of these well. And of course, as far as Israel is concerned, look, we have a fine bilateral relationship with them, which is also strongly rooted in interests, whether it is in the area of defense, it's in the area of managing terrorism, etc. All of that is done well. And we have been there to stand up for Israel in the most difficult of times. But we've also called upon the Israelis to be more understanding for the need for humanitarian assistance and for the fact that the Palestinians are important. You can't just wish them away. Look at our recent vote for Palestine to have enhanced rights in the UN General Assembly. So it is a balancing act, but it's an important balancing act for us because we are also a major country in the region.
Indeed.
This is, after all, our extended neighborhood. And we balance, but we balance this success.
All right. On that note, Ambassador Manjeev Puri, thank you for your time. Appreciate it. In other news, in a proud moment for India and Indians alike, Ramcharitmanas, Panchatantra and Sahriday Lokana have been included in UNESCO's Memory of the World Asia-Pacific Regional Register. The inclusion confirms India's rich literary heritage and cultural legacy and signifies the global cultural preservation efforts. It underscores the importance of recognizing and safeguarding the diverse narratives and artistic expressions that shape our shared humanity. The decision was taken in the 10th meeting of the Memory of the World Committee for Asia and the Pacific.
It indeed a great honor in informing that 3 of our ancient manuscripts on Ramcharitmanas, Panchatantra and Sahriday Lokana have been nominated and inscribed into UNESCO International Regional Register, which represent all Asia Pacific country. These nominations, which are considered one of the most well-known and a kind of inscriptions which motivate every Indian, and now with this presence in UNESCO regional register, these manuscripts will give all kind of information to the rest of the world.
This is a matter of pride for all of us that for the first time 3 inscriptions have been adopted in the regional register of the Memory of the World: Ramcharitmanas, Panchatantra and Sahriday Lokana. Sahriday Lokana is a very prominent text of ancient period on Indian aesthetics. This is perhaps for the first time that India sent its nomination for the regional register. We have been sending nominations in the national registers and in the global register, world registers. But for the first time, this was thought by the Ministry of Culture, and Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts took up this project, and we filed the nomination for the regional register.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. India dispatches humanitarian aid to Kenya in the wake of devastation caused by floods. And US actor Meryl Streep to be the guest of honor at the opening ceremony of Cannes Film Festival.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts. We demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. India's External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar on Tuesday attended the Developed India program in Kolkata, West Bengal. Addressing the program, Minister Jaishankar shed light on the concerning situation with China. He highlighted the 2020 border tension, emphasizing India's response to safeguarding national security amidst the COVID-19 lockdown. The minister underscored the abnormal deployment along the line of actual control, urging Indians to prioritize the country's security.
In 2020, the Chinese, in violation of multiple agreements, brought large number of forces to our border, and they did it at a time when we were under COVID lockdown in this country. Presumably, that may have had some bearing on somebody's calculation. Now, we responded by counter-deploying our forces, and then all of you are familiar with the story. We had the clash in Galwan, and for 4 years now, we are both deployed, ahead of our normal base positions, normal patrolling zones out there. So it's a very abnormal deployment today along the line of actual control. As Indian citizens, none of us can or should disregard actually the security of our country.
Russia's President Vladimir Putin will visit China from May 16 to 17 and hold a meeting with China's President Xi Jinping, according to China's Foreign Ministry, which confirmed the visit on Tuesday. It will be Putin's first foreign trip in his new 6-year term, underscoring Russia's deepening relationship with China. The two countries declared a no-limits partnership in February 2022 when Putin visited Beijing, just days before Putin sent tens of thousands of its troops into Ukraine. India dispatched humanitarian aid to Kenya in the wake of devastation caused by floods. 38 out of 47 counties in Kenya have been affected. At least 267 people have died, 188 were injured, and more than 280,000 people have been displaced. A relief consignment was airlifted on an Indian Air Force plane comprising 22 tons of humanitarian assistance and disaster relief items such as tents, sleeping bags, ready-to-eat meals to provide immediate succor to the people of Kenya. It also contained about 18 tons of medical aid, including baby food, water purification and menstrual hygiene products. An Indian naval ship, INS Sumedha, reached Mombasa on the 10th of May. And Meryl Streep is the chief guest at the opening ceremony of Cannes Film Festival, which kicks off on Tuesday. All We Imagine as Light from India is among 22 films competing for the prestigious Palme d'Or. Munun Bhattacharya has more.
I am standing at the La Croisette Promenade, the iconic street of Cannes along the Mediterranean Sea, the famous 24 steps leading up to the Palais des Festivals, where most of the cinema is screened at this festival, is right here. The spotlight on day one is on the opening ceremony, the opening film, and the red carpet walks. Meryl Streep is the guest of honor at the opening ceremony of Cannes. A celebrated American actor, she is being honored with the festival's honorary Palme d'Or. 35 years ago, she won the Best Actress Award in Cannes for Evil Angels in 1989, and she makes her return now to the festival after 35 years. Hers is a 50-year-long career, and she embodies masterpieces. She holds the record for the most Academy Award nominations of any actor because she's been nominated a record 21 times. The opening film of the festival, in Out of Competition section, is the second act by French filmmaker Quentin Dupieux. It is a comedy and will set the stage for 12 days of screenings of world cinema at the festival. The official poster of this year's festival is from Rhapsody in August. It is a Japanese film that was screened out of competition in 1999 here at the Cannes Film Festival. The story revolves around a family that is affected by the 1945 Nagasaki bombing, and this film has a message of the importance of coming together and seeking harmony in all things. 22 films are competing for the prestigious Palme d'Or given every year to the director of the best film. In the reckoning for the award is American director Francis Ford Coppola for Megalopolis. It is his first movie in over 10 years. English filmmaker Andrea Arnold's Bird is about a 12-year-old girl living in poverty in England. Russian director Kirill Serebrenikov's Limonov the Ballet is about a Russian poet living in New York. American director Paul Schrader, best known as the screenwriter behind Taxi Driver, will present O Canada. It stars Uma Thurman and Richard Gere. It is a comedy revolving around older people looking back on their lives and mistakes. Some of the movies screening out of competition are Australian filmmaker George Miller's Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, and American director Kevin Costner's Horizon, an American saga, which is set on the Western frontier during the American Civil War. The main festival jury is chaired by Greta Gerwig. She is the director of Barbie. Awards will be announced on the 25th of May, the day the festival comes to a close. And at the closing ceremony, George Lucas, Hollywood legend, director, producer and screenwriter, will be felicitated with an honorary Palme d'Or for his contribution to cinema. With cameraman YK Loknath, this is Munmun Bhattacharya from Cannes for DD India.
And Munmun Bhattacharya visits the Bharat Pavilion, which is a hub for India's film fraternity at Cannes. It not only showcases Indian cinema to the world, but also becomes a vehicle of India's soft power.
This is the Bharat Pavilion at the 108 Village International Riviera on the Mediterranean coast. Like every year, it becomes the hub for the Indian film fraternity at Cannes. It showcases Indian cinema to the world and thus becomes a vehicle of India's soft power. This year, the National Film Development Corporation, under the aegis of India's Information and Broadcasting Ministry, has set up a 223 square meter venue. It has an all-new modern look as per international standards and is managed by industry body FICCI. It is customizable to the industry's requirements and overlooks the beautiful Riviera coastline. The Bharat Pavilion showcases India as the Sutradhar of the world's stories and how she shapes visual culture. The design concept was conceived by India's National Institute of Design. The Sutradhar encompasses a much wider and prominent position within Natya Shastra, almost similar to the conductor of an orchestra. Much like the India Pavilion at Cannes is an invocation of what she is set to create and offer this year, the Sutradhar aptly is responsible for creating an atmosphere of austerity. At the Bharat Pavilion, India will be engaging in speed dating with film industry representatives from the UK, Spain, Australia and New Zealand on film co-productions. There will also be roundtables with heads of international film festivals from around the world. The pavilion offers ample space for meetings, hangout spaces a terrace for evening receptions, and a reception area with dedicated kiosks to book meetings. The Bharat Pavilion will be inaugurated on the 15th of May in the presence of India's Information and Broadcasting Secretary Sanjay Jaju, India's Ambassador to France and Monaco Javed Ashraf, and Canadian filmmaker Richie Mehta, among other Indian and international celebrities. For the first time, India is organizing a Bharat Parv, which is an Indian festival of sorts where Indian talent and opportunities will be showcased, and India's two marquee international film festivals, MIF, which is Mumbai International Film Festival, and IFFI, which is the International Film Festival of India in Goa, will be promoted. With cameraman YK Loknath, this is Munman Bhattacharya from Cannes for DD India.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India News Up. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen now to download it. And let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Up.